You want to be a homesteader? I got a whole $1.50 to say about that.
This video is a shout out to all the people who want to be homesteaders but don't think they can, and all the people who are homesteading and think they're failing. Today's video gets real.
You can still be a homesteader if you have a really cool corner in your basement where you're growing some hydroponics stuff, but the rest of your basement looks like a bomb went off. You can also be a homesteader if you had really great plans and life got away from you for a couple months or a year or whatever amount of time, and now you have all these projects that you're like, well, this really got away from me. This is our duck and our chicken area. They are netted on the top. What you will also see is I've got trees growing through the netting and through the fencing. Just look at this fence. It's falling over. And we've been saying for a while that we need to fix that. We need to, get in there when the ground is thawed and then, pull all those posts up and fix it and make it more sturdy before things get going for the year. And we didn't get that done last year because life happened. That still happens if you're a homesteader, and it's okay. You can still be a homesteader. Something else you need to know, you can still be a homesteader if you don't have a cow. I don't have a cow. You can still be a homesteader if you decide the goats aren't for you and you decide to sell them all. Haven't had goats for a long time. You can still be a homesteader. It's okay. This video is not to say that everybody should be a homesteader. Not everybody wants to be a homesteader. This video is to be real with you. This video is to say that if you're watching some fancy homesteaders somewhere and thinking, I can't do that, the truth is, some of those fancy homesteaders aren't doing it either, or they've got a lot of help, or they're in a different stage of life, they're in a completely different situation, or they are doing everything and you're just not seeing all the ish and the chaos that comes along with it. But here's the thing about being a homesteader. Does anybody even know what the term homesteader means? What does it even mean anymore? It is okay to be a homesteader and not know what you're doing. And it's okay to be honest about that. We all started somewhere and we all had to learn what we're doing, whether you learned that when you were 5 or you learned it yesterday. It is okay to be a homesteader and admit that you don't want it to completely take over your life, that you don't want all this simple old-fashioned stuff to completely take over. That's okay. That's okay to admit. And sometimes we need to talk about that. It's okay to have one foot in the simple life and one foot in modern chaos, which really, that's where most of us live. You're watching this on YouTube, right? When my husband and I were first married 24 years ago, I hung my clothes out on a line that I had strung from the limb of a tree onto a privacy fence. It was not very long at all, but that's what I did, and that's where I hung our clothes. We had a tiny garden. I cooked almost all of our meals from scratch. I made our bread. It was sourdough bread, not the fancy sourdough that everybody's making now. It was just a recipe from the Tightwad Gazette book. That's the sourdough I made. We used home remedies 98% of the time. We got our eggs from a lady down the street on Main Street who was illegally keeping chickens. Most of our meat came from hunting. We did a lot of bartering for other things. I learned to sew, thrift shopping and garage sales, and all that was where a lot of our stuff came from. Now here's my question. Was I a homesteader? Was I a homesteader living there on Main Street, my husband and our 2 little babies? Were we homesteaders? Because you know what? That's not what we called it back then. You want to call yourself a homesteader? Awesome. Now, this is not to ish on anyone. I want homesteaders to support each other no matter what side of the fence they're on, no matter how big their YouTube channel is, no matter if they have an acre of land, half an acre of land, they live in an apartment, they have 120 acres. I don't care. I want homesteaders to support each other and teach each other. I want people who want to take on one homesteading skill or a million homesteading skills to know that they have places that will teach them that and people who will support them through learning that. That's what we're here for. What I don't want is fighting over what's the best way to do something when there's a million different ways to do it. What I don't want is one-upping. And what I really don't want is gatekeeping. Because how can you gatekeep when there's not even a checklist of what a homesteader is? And maybe here's the real question. Why does the label of homesteader matter so much? Back when my husband and I were first married and we were doing all those things, it was just called a young couple trying to save money. That's what it was called. If I have a cool barn and it is a cool barn. But I still stop at Caribou Coffee every so often after work for a fancy coffee treat. Does that still mean I'm a homesteader? If I plant potatoes and onions and cucumbers and we raise the chicken and the turkey and the pork and all of that we eat, but we have a 2022 Harley Davidson motorcycle, does that still mean we're homesteaders? If we butcher and process all of our own meat on site, but I still use shampoo and conditioner that I buy at the salon, does that mean I'm still a homesteader? Y'all, go learn the things you want to learn. Whether that's how to grow a tomato or how to take your entire property off-grid. Don't worry about what to call it and whether or not you fit. Just go do it.